Hola, mi gente. Joe Barreto back with you at the Credit Card Connection. I'm so glad you can join me. Well, mi gente, it seems like Amex is at it again. Recent reports that have been out there in the last couple of days have shown that Amex is back to shutting down accounts. So today I'm going to go over what they're looking for when they're shutting down these accounts, what you should do to prepare yourself if your account has been shut down, and what rights you have if they actually shut you down. What can you do about it at that point? That sounds good to you, mi gente. Do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. Check out the referral links below. Let's jump into it. So, today, as I go to record this, it is Friday, October 24th. Earlier today, I got a text from a friend of mine, Johnny Ma, who sent me an article from Danny the Deal Guru showing where people were complaining that Amex is shutting down their accounts. Now, I'm not a Reddit lover, user, and so on. There were quotes in there from Reddit. So I said, let me look further. So the rest of this past day, all I've been doing is researching and finding out if this is indeed something that is happening across the board or if it's a little bit more targeted. And it seems to be a mix of both. So part of me as I go to the side here, because I did take a lot of notes, because I did do a lot of research from different blogs, different sites, and so on, so that I could bring you the real information and not just what somebody's opinion was. Okay. So the first thing is through the blog travel update, it shows that Amex is shutting down accounts like they did back in February of 2025. The article suggests that it's not a widespread shutdown, except that it's more for customers right now that are have activity in foreign places. They've been on trips. They're spending a lot of money abroad internationally and in and circling their cycle limits, right? So they're just they keep moving credit limits around, they keep applying, shutting down, and so on. Things that we know we shouldn't do, right? So that should be the no-brainer in all of this. Because as you guys know, none of us when we get our credit cards and we apply, let's say for the Amex Platinum that comes in this box, we don't read all the packages of stuff that comes with it, all the fine print. But they do that for a reason because they do have rights on how they deal with their customers. So the other thing is this: I looked at and researched it through Danny the Deal Guru, Flyer Talk, Upgraded Points, Nerd Wallet. Okay, so I have different points of view and different articles across the past year, and now even more recently, saying what you should do and what they're looking for when they're doing these shutdowns. Okay. So, what's happening, one in particular, is this: if you have, if somebody's using a credit card and putting a lot of spend on it, but instead of using their own bank account, they're using somebody else's bank account to pay that bill. Okay. So using another person's account to pay a large spend can raise those flags. And that's because you should have your own account. And like I always say, keep your business spend and personal spend separate. That's why you have business credit cards and personal credit cards. Sometimes you will have overlap if you're at a dinner, for instance, and so on. But if you're spending large amounts of money and then using somebody else's account to pay for it, it's gonna raise a red flag. The next thing, manufactured spend or cashing out activities, right? So you're gonna manufacture spend and then just do a quick cash out. They don't like that. They also don't like people that do self referrals. So if I have a referral code and I'm gonna go use that referral code again to apply for a different product, think about it, guys. It's like a double dip. They're not stupid. They're looking at what we're doing. So they're going to either shut you down or claw back those points that you think you've already earned. Okay. Also, abusing referral programs repeatedly and or collecting welcome bonuses. And here's why. You have that phrase earn and burn, earn and burn. They watch what we do. They watch us on YouTube. They watch us whenever we talk. They really have people that could maybe subscribe right now to this channel and looking at this, right? They're out there, guys. So they're not stupid to this. So they know that if someone is running this game, they're going to shut it down. And here's the thing, it comes in waves. So the first wave was at the beginning of the year. And now, if you think about it, a lot of people are really jumping into the credit card game to take advantage of the high bonus offers, just like the Amex Platinum and the Chase Sapphire Reserve and so on, and trying to take advantage of all these credits and so on. And here's one of the things that people do that it just blows my mind. They'll make the purchases and then return them and then just still want the statement credit for stuff. Things of that nature. You keep doing it, you're going to get caught. Okay. Now, NerdWallet back in February says that trying to game the system, accounts not being used for intended purposes usually has been the official reason. And in their blog, it also says that Amex reserves the right to close accounts based on usage patterns that they deem inconsistent. In other words, large, and this is straight from the article, large MR point balances with little classic usage activity. So, in other words, all of a sudden you racked up 250,000 MR points, and it wasn't from meeting the spend on the card at the sign up. It was by doing different things, buying gift cards, doing these other things to do it. And then all of a sudden, the next month, you're not using the card again. Again, that just it raises a flag for them because they see that as unusual activity. Okay. And they can take away your points. Flyer Talk shows here where someone lost 900,000 MR points because they were doing things that Amex deemed to be inappropriate. Now, what can you do? So here we have, I broke it down, risk awareness. So high spend, international travel spend. What you need to do is if you're going to go travel internationally and it's for business, make sure you use your business card. Okay. Keep notes of what you're doing, keep those receipts. Also, when you get back to the States, make sure you pay using your own account. Other people have lost points and have had accounts shut down if they have cards international. So let's say you had a card here, an Amex Platinum, and while you're living in the States, then you move out of the country for a while and make that your home base and use the card out there without applying for one from that particular country. They could also shut down the one that was supposed to be US based. So not if you're on a trip, but if you move and then don't make those switches, that's also a way that they can shut you down. Now, in terms of points and miles, the problem is when you got all these points racking up because you're doing all these things. Hopefully, you're doing them the right way. But if you're not and they're bucketed, they're going to take that down and they're going to shut it down. Okay. So they're even talking here what they call a spend jump, cash conversions, and so on. And when you mix business and personal to get those points, that's another one. So, what should you do to mitigate the risk? Honestly, maintain consistent spend patterns rather than massive spikes. In other words, if you're going to spend $300-400 every month on your car like you normally do, and now it's the holidays, you're going to spend more. Everybody gets that. But let's say in the month of February, you spend $50,000 on some weird stuff, and here not in the States but elsewhere, use somebody else's account to pay that bill, and then the next month you're spending $300 on just digital entertainment and Lululemon or an Aura ring. They're gonna know that something is not right with that account, and they're gonna shut you down. Okay, so the other thing is vendor payouts, anything that's foreign out of the country, especially the way things are now, guys. You don't want to get involved in buying stuff overseas and then finding different ways to pay it or from different banks to pay that one bill. That's going to trigger as well. The other thing is keep more than one card open. Most people that have Amex or Chase have two or three cards at least within that system. So if they're hitting one card, let's say they hit your Amex Platinum, you still have the gold to fall back on. And as you know, in Amex, all the points are kind of in a bucket. So you could have a move there. Now, there are states like New York that have rules in effect. And I just found this out through the research I did that you have 90 days if a bank issuer is clawing back or going to shut your account down to use those points that you've accumulated. Now, that was for New York. Not every state has that rule. You'd have to check in whatever particular state you live in to see if that applies. Okay. The other thing is look for any messages. Sometimes we get bombarded with emails, texts, pop ups. Be aware if something says, and I have it here under review messages. If you notice that your credit line all of a sudden was lowered, you know how sometimes you'll have a $15,000 credit line, then you're like, wait, what happened? I only have a $5,000 credit line. That means that they're noticing either you're not using the credit line they gave you enough, or you abused it and they're shutting it down little by little. So they're limiting the amount of credit they're going to extend to you. All right. Now, Amex doesn't always publicly say what their reasons are, but for the most part is, you know, that they're going to check and they have the right to shut you down if they deem that you are doing something that is out of compliance on their end. And a lot of that and this is for regular customers using travel, dining, everyday purchases. That's what you should do it for on your personal side, not engaging in aggressive manufactured spend or high risk patterns. Then the risk of closure appears much lower. So, guys, the reason I'm bringing you this out now is because now with the holidays, we're all applying for a lot of different cards. Here on this channel, I just told you the other day, I applied for a Rakuten card. That's technically an Amex card, but it's underwritten through Imprint. But again, it's how you use the card. And like I always tell you, use the cards as intended. You don't want to be caught up in this mess because when they give you a financial review, if they ask you to submit documents, if they ask you to show proof of things, you're going to have to show that proof and you're going to have to submit those documents. So before you do any of that, again, I'm giving you the warning today on Friday, October 24th. Keep your personal stuff personal, keep your business stuff on the business side. Try not to mix both worlds together. Pay your accounts with your own bank accounts, not somebody else's account. Once that, if you have somebody that's helping you pay a bill because it was an unexpected charge, fine. But if you're constantly doing this where you're having a high spend one month and then they notice that that payment wasn't being made from an account you have set up with them, that you're paying it through, a lot of us I pay all my stuff online. They're going to know. So, mi gente, I hope at least that this gives you some sort of understanding of what Amex is doing again now. And it's not to scare you, it's just to inform you and to tell you the steps that you need to take in order to make sure that it doesn't affect you. So, as always, mi gente, I thank you for being here. But more than anything else, I thank you for giving me the privilege of your time. Until next time, mi gente, take care.